Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the threat that sulfide ore mining poses to Minnesota's boundary waters. A little information about the boundary waters. In the northeastern tip of our state, it encompasses over 1 million acres of rugged boreal forest and pristine freshwater ecosystems, and includes the largest contiguous sections of uncut forest in the eastern United States. The boundary waters are home to 3 federally endangered species, the gray wolf, the Canadian lynx, and the northern long-eared bat, as well as 2 species of special concern to the state of Minnesota, the lake sturgeon and the moose. This area provides critical habitat for hundreds of species. It hosts over 150,000 human visitors annually. It includes over 1,500 miles of water trails, most of them non-motorized. Some of the best canoeing, kayaking, fishing, camping, and hiking in the country can be enjoyed here. It holds a very special place in lots of Minnesotans' hearts, mine included, which is why this issue I'm going to talk about today is so important for everyone listening. Now, the Boundary Waters Wilderness, or BWCAW, is part of the greater Quetico Superior region, a much larger area, which is actually all potentially impacted by the mining activity I'll be talking about. Here's the map of the Quetico Superior region. You can see that it includes not only the boundary waters, but the Superior National Forest, Voyageurs National Park, and the Quetico Provincial Park in Ontario, Canada. Just a couple photos of the boundary waters area to give everyone an idea of the landscape we're talking about today. Mining is an issue for the boundary waters because it sits upon the Duluth Complex, a large geological formation of intrusive rock. It makes up the largest undeveloped nickel-copper deposit in the world, contains vast amounts of nickel, copper, cobalt, palladium, and platinum within sulfide-bearing ore. The process required to extract these metals is thus called sulfide ore mining. So, a little bit about sulfide ore mining. Like I said, it's the process in which trace amounts of copper, nickel, and other precious metals are removed from large amounts of sulfide-bearing ore. That ore is removed from deep underground, crushed, and then chemically processed to extract those metals. The waste rock must then be stored indefinitely or backfilled into the mine. Sulfide ore mining can be performed in deep underground or shallow open-pit mines. 2 companies, Polymet and Twin Metals, have claimed mining rights and proposed plans for sulfide mines to access the Duluth complex. And you can see on the side there is a flow chart for the process of obtaining copper from sulfide or oxide ore. It is a complex process with a lot of steps and a lot of potential for something to go wrong. These are just some images of sulfide ore copper mines and the damage that they can cause. Next, I want to talk about some of the environmental and human health risks of sulfide ore mining. One of the biggest issues is that once exposed to air and water, sulfides in the ore begin a chemical reaction that produces sulfuric acid, which then enters the water cycle. The presence of sulfuric acid in freshwater ecosystems begins the process of acidification, during which the environment becomes inhospitable to living organisms and the entire structure and function of the ecosystem is disrupted. Mercury, lead, arsenic, and other heavy metals and pollutants also leach from the ore. This is known as acid mine drainage. These heavy metals are deposited in the soil and transported throughout the water cycle of freshwater ecosystems, where they enter living organisms. The sulfates released from the ore also promote the methylation of already present mercury to create an even more biotoxic compound called methylmercury, which can accumulate in living organisms, moving itself right up the food web. Sulfide ore mining can release 6 of the 10 environmental toxins considered to pose the greatest risk to human health by the World Health Organization. These are mercury, lead, arsenic, cadmium, asbestos, and particulate air pollution. The deep underground mines planned for the Duluth complex would require a massive network of pipelines to transport toxic acid drainage. These pipelines have long been known to have a high rate of failure. The interconnected freshwater ecosystems of the boundary waters are especially vulnerable to these types of pollution due to their ability to transport and store toxic materials. Acid mine drainage can have devastating health effects on communities and individuals who depend on rivers and lakes. The proposed mines would likely contaminate ground and drinking water for 2 Native American communities as well, so there are cultural considerations to be made. The bottom line is sulfide mining has a 100% contamination rate. There has never been a sulfide mine studied that was not found to contaminate the groundwater around it. Proponents of mining the Duluth complex believe that these metals are crucial to Minnesota's and America's economic security. Twin Metals estimates that their plan for mining will result in a total of 2,250 jobs in Minnesota. Several studies have shown that proceeding with the mining plans of Twin Metals or PolyMet would almost certainly result in a decrease in employment and average income in the region. Nearly 30,000 jobs in travel, tourism, and growing industries would be at risk, along with over $1.5 billion in lost income and over $500 million in property value loss. And here is just a simplified breakdown of the history of this issue. As you can see, in 1966, the federal government issued 2 leases for copper mining in the Superior National Forest. In 1978, mining within the Boundary Waters Wilderness was banned, but not in the surrounding area. All was quiet until 2012 when a foreign mining company purchased the old leases with plans to build the Twin Metals mine just 5 miles from the Boundary Waters. Then in 2016 and 17, the Forest Service determined that the Twin Metals mine would likely cause irreversible damage. The federal government canceled the leases and enacted a 20-year mining ban around the Boundary Waters. Then in 2018, the Trump administration resurrected the Twin Metals expired mining leases and canceled the ban, despite being sued by multiple parties over that decision. Luckily, before the construction of those mines got underway, in 2022, the Biden administration canceled the renewed leases, effectively banning mining activity in the area, but only for the next 20 years. 2042 remains uncertain. Right now, we have House Resolution 668 introduced by Betty McCollum sitting in the Subcommittee on Federal Lands in the Minnesota House of Representatives. However, based on most of the opinions I found in my research, it is unfortunately not expected to pass this session. The future is up to us, Minnesota. Think about this issue, research where your state representative and Senate candidates sit on it, and make your voice heard with your vote. And just to wrap things up here, I have 6 key points to take away from this. 1. The entire Quetico Superior region, including the Boundary Waters, is threatened by the prospect of sulfide ore mining in the area. 2. Twin Metals and PolyMet want to mine the Duluth complex. 3. Sulfide ore mining in the area would cause irreversible damage to natural ecosystems, the destruction of wildlife and critical habitat, and pose serious health risks to communities, workers, and tourists. 4. Mining would destroy a thriving ecotourism industry and hurt Minnesota economically. 5. Mining threatens to take Minnesota's iconic wilderness away from future generations. And lastly, more action is needed. A permanent ban on mining the Duluth complex is the only solution. Thanks so much for listening. Hope everyone enjoyed it. I will post some links to some of my sources in the comments so you guys can check that out on your own time. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.